Could Kyrie Irving potentially be back full-time for the Brooklyn Nets just in time for their playoff run?
Would you fall for me like I fall for you?
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. It's your boy Dom, and we're going to get right into things today. So, today, we're talking about no other than Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, Kyrie has been a main talking point all season long. And things continue to swirl around the Brooklyn Nets, a team that obviously just at the deadline made a major move, trading one of the best players in the league in James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, getting Ben Simmons, getting Seth Curry, getting Andre Drummond, and getting a couple first-round picks as well. The team made drastic roster changes there. Also was able to sign Goran Dragic in the buyout market, and looks to be potentially a better supporting cast around Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving than last year, regardless of the loss of James Harden, because James Harden was injured in the playoffs last year. And if, with the return looking on the horizon of Kevin Durant back to play here shortly, as he's been out since about mid-January, with some MCL sprains and stuff like that, and obviously they're taking full precautions on that, having him just coming off an ACL injury, with the integration of Ben Simmons about to happen into this team as well, as early as March 10th, if not potentially a little bit later. Obviously, he wants to play that March 10th game in Philadelphia versus the 76ers. I'm not sure if he wants to, or if he just is saying he wants to. That's maybe a different conversation for a different day, because I know the fans are going to kill him in Philadelphia. But yeah, a lot of news has been swirling this team lately, and one of the biggest things that's been swirling this team is, could Kyrie Irving potentially be back full-time for the Brooklyn Nets just in time for their playoff run? He could be. For sure, he could be. When we look at a tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski, obviously Woj, everybody knows Woj in the NBA community. He says, here's the interpretation of New York City's mayor's announcement. Kyrie Irving remains restricted from playing under New York City mandate for large employers, but March 7th loosening of key to New York City mandate is another step in what's expected to be an inevitability Irving will be cleared to play this season. Okay, so that's very, very interesting, right? Obviously, this is a guy that we know he didn't want to take the vaccine for the virus, and that was a lot of stuff that was swirling on him at the start of the season. It was like, okay, well, he's going to be able to play half the games, so he can play about like 39 games or something like that, because he can't play, obviously, in the Knicks either, since, that's still New York or whatever. It's still technically his, residence or whatever. But he'd be able to play in, Golden State. I don't know. The mandates on all that were super, super weird with how it related to that, on how unvaccinated players on away teams could still play and all that stuff. It was super, super weird, right? But Kyrie Irving was swirling the media with all that, said that he didn't want to get the vaccine, didn't end up getting the vaccine, was looking at, alternate options, obviously we know Mr. Immunized Aaron Rodgers was as well for the NFL. But yeah, Kyrie Irving was kind of the forefront, one of the bigger stars to not get vaccinated. I believe it was him, Bradley Beal. Andrew Wiggins was kind of on that, and then he ended up getting vaccinated, and it boded well for him. He was able to make his first All-Star team, obviously, as we know. But Kyrie Irving was kind of ruled out as the Nets. They said, hey, we don't want you part-time. If you're not going to commit to the team and get the vaccine, we don't want you in the building. And he was like, okay, send me my checks, I'll chill out at home, right? This guy got paid for the first half of the season just to kind of hang out and do what he wanted, right? Obviously, he couldn't, play basketball, but he was still getting his checks because the team, it wasn't that he was refusing or anything like that, like a Ben Simmons situation. The team was just not willing to have to deal with that lineup shuffling that Steve Nash would have to do all season long. But eventually, injuries started catching up to his team. We saw this team go through a very, very rough patch where Kevin Durant was damn near, if not leading the league in MVP conversations. Obviously, him and Steph Curry have mightily died down since the start of the year, where it looked like both of them were potentially on par for historic seasons in their own rights, potentially trying to capture another MVP for each of them. But Kevin Durant, he had to take over as this team got injured, and he was playing 48 minutes a game. Eventually, I think that's what led to him getting that slight sprain or injury to his MCL or whatever, because he had to play every minute in a game versus like the Pistons to win by like 3 in like the middle of December, which was not ideal for this team. So what they did was in about mid-December, they announced that Kyrie Irving was going to come back, right? So it was December 17th. GM came out. He said, after discussion with our coaches, players, and staff, the organization has decided to have Kyrie Irving rejoin the team for games and practices in which he is eligible to participate. So this team was going through a super rough patch, a lot of injuries. James Harden was injured. Kevin Durant was injured. The rest of the role players were injured, and they needed to put people out there. I mean, this team had so many 10-game contracts that they were throwing at these random guys. I know that was the stretch of the year where we had these guys that NBA nerds had never heard of some of these guys that were being played on the court, and a lot of those guys were on the Brooklyn Nets because they just needed to have enough guys to put out there. Now, it did lead to them finding some gems on their roster or in free agency, in like a Kessler Edwards and stuff like that. But it wasn't good for them. And so that's why the team, in large part, is in the 8th seed right now in the Eastern Conference. Not exactly where they were hoping to be, considering they wanted to be finals contenders and everything like that. So they bring Kyrie Irving back, and now currently they are the 8th seed, as I said, sitting at 32 and 29. The last team in the East that is above 500 before you get to the 9th seed of Charlotte, that is 30 and 32. So they're sitting like they're going to be in the play-in, it looks like, unless they can really work their way out of it. But because of Boston, like their jump that they've had the last month or so, they kind of have a little bit of a bar above Brooklyn, because they're about 3-4 games ahead of them. So it would be a little bit of a tough push for Brooklyn to get there, to be not a play-in team. Now, it's not impossible, and especially with all these guys that are going to be coming back and everything like that, who knows? But the conversation that's been swirling this team this last week and a half or so is on how Kyrie Irving might be coming back full-time, right? So, we were talking about how the mandate has opened up a little bit, but he still isn't going to be able to play. But if this team, even if the mandate doesn't open up until the playoffs start, or even in the first round or something like that, if halfway through the first round you go from maybe Kyrie can't play in game 1 because you don't have home court, then he plays in game 2 or something like that, right? But then say the next game the mandate's lifted and he can play the rest of the series, that's huge. Not only for your team on the court, but for your team in the locker room, because you just got a 25-point per game all-star that is super, super clutch back on your roster for every single game for the rest of the season, right? And if Ben Simmons can improve this defense, add some more playmaking to this team, and Kevin Durant can come back and continue to do what he was doing when it looked like he was going to potentially win the MVP, this team looks dangerous. I mean, this team has a very, very deep guard rotation, having Goran Dragic and Patty Mills off the bench when Kyrie is playing. They have guys like Bruce Brown and Kessler Edwards as very good defenders. Obviously, Blake Griffin is on this team as well. Not as good as he was last year, but he's on the team. Marcus Aldridge has come back after his scare that he had last year, and he's played very good for his age. You've got Andre Drummond, who's come in, obviously a rebound monster, a guy that was born to rebound the basketball. And then you've got Seth Curry, a very, very underrated pickup for this team, a guy that you can chuck in the corner and is kind of going to do what they weren't going to get from Joe Harris for the rest of the year since he's out. And he's just going to be the guy that can just sit in the corner and make his three over and over and over. There's a guy that shoots, I want to say, 45-ish% on catch and shoot three-pointers. That means every other time that you throw the ball to this guy, he's making the three, which is very, very, very good. So, if Kyrie comes back full-time, it opens up a lot offensively for this team, right? You can have more lineups where you have Ben Simmons potentially at the 5, because you don't need him maybe more on the wing or at the guard position, because his playmaking isn't as needed, having a Kyrie on the court who's going to have the ball in his hands 23 out of the 26 seconds of the shot clock if he doesn't take it the whole shot clock when he does take it. Obviously, Kevin Durant takes a long time on the shot clock. These are guys that they're isolation scorers. It was something that was talked about when their original big three with James Harden was brought together. All these guys are isolation scorers. So they're not like catch and shoot guys. It's not like you have a Klay Thompson on this team. You're not going to have James Harden just sitting on the wing like a Seth Curry or Klay Thompson waiting to catch the ball and shoot it. Like, there's a guy that once he catches it, he's going to do his little move. He's going to get into the, free throw line. He's going to do a step back, get out to the three, hit the three or whatever, right? They've got these long moves that they've really worked to their ability to work on their craft and really get good at this ability of scoring the basketball. And so, that different type of star in Ben Simmons that they were able to bring to this team, which should help this team mightily. I think the biggest thing is defensively. This is a guy, you no longer have to stick up Bruce Brown. Yeah, Bruce Brown is nice. Kessler Edwards, nice. Even Kevin Durant, he's been a good defender ever since, if not a great defender, ever since leaving OKC. He really developed his defensive ability in that Golden State Warriors offense when he was there. So it's not like you didn't have good defenders on this team before, but you can just, if Ben Simmons is tasked at defending, Giannis or whatever for a series long, that's one of the better guys in the league that I want to guard Giannis for a series long. And if that's his primary thing, right, a new environment is going to open up so much more for him. The defensive ability that he should be able to bring to this team is going to be very, very impactful. I mean, it's a guy that last year, I personally thought he should have been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He didn't end up, I don't think, getting into the top 3, which I thought was kind of BS. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the best perimeter defenders that we have in our league, and he can also defend in the post as well because of his size. And that's not even mentioning his ability to get the ball and push the pace, to turn, a miss on the other team into a bucket for your team, right? So I think that's something that's going to really unlock something different for this offense that they maybe didn't have before. It's going to unlock a lot defensively for them. And once Kyrie Irving is on this team, you think people are scared of Ben Simmons scoring the ball? No. Everybody's been flaming this guy for the past 12 months on how awful he is at scoring the basketball, right? In Philly, though, he was the number 2 option. He was the guy behind Joel Embiid that was expected to score. Yes, you had Tobias Harris, but Tobias Harris is Tobias Harris. He's not an all-star. He almost made an all-star when you were with the Clippers, but he's not an all-star. He's not your second guy. Ben Simmons was your second guy. Here, he's damn near a throw-in. Yes, he's the 3rd best player on the team and whatnot, but he's damn near a throw-in at that point on offense, and that'll open up so much more for him on cuts and stuff like that. If Steve Nash really gets creative with his offense, you can see this team be very, very successful. And this is a scary team at the bottom of the at the bottom of the East. I apologize. Whoever has to play them in the play-in, I would not want to be that team. Right now, they'd be playing Toronto in the first round of the play-in. If I'm Chicago, I'm a little bit scared I'm going to get stuck with Brooklyn in the first round of the playoffs, right? And then if they lose that game and they end up playing a Miami, who currently is the 1st seed after beating a Charlotte or an Atlanta, which I think they'd handedly sweep. I know Ben Simmons has his issues with Atlanta, but again, a guy that at that point, he's not your primary guy. You're not having him bring the ball up the court. You're having Kyrie bring the ball up the court, especially if Kyrie's back full time. So if Kyrie can come back full time, adding a 25-point per game scorer to an extra every game that you have him, rather than 50%, you're getting him 100%. It does wonders for your team. It opens up so much for your offense. It helps with the pressure of other players, and you don't even have to play on a game where you start to blow people out. You can take Kyrie out immediately, right? And putting Goran Dragic and Patty Mills and still very serviceable guards out there that can keep your lead and whatnot. And since Kyrie hasn't played a full season and has kind of been doing sporadic games at this point, maybe, that keeps away from some of the injury struggles that we've seen Kyrie have previously in his career and in last postseason as well, which very hindered this team on, a team that was even then still only probably a shoe size away from potentially winning the NBA Finals. So this team is a team that was assembled as a championship or bust team. I think this team is looked at as a kind of a just disgusting performance, disgusting all around if they don't win a championship. I think Kevin Durant needs it for his legacy. I think Kyrie wants it for his legacy. And I know Ben Simmons wants to prove everybody that has talked crap about him in the last 8-12 months very, very wrong, because he hears it. He knows exactly what everybody said. It's part of the reason he wasn't playing. It's part of why he was struggling probably mentally, because he heard it all. He knows exactly what everybody thought. And as a competitor, as a guy that made the NBA, you don't make the NBA. There's the whole Jimmy Butler and the Timberwolves and how he thought that team was soft, right? But regardless if they're quote-unquote soft or whatever, you still don't make the NBA without being a diehard competitor. You have to be one of the 200, 300 best athletes to play the game of basketball in the entire world when millions play this game. Yeah, you've got a competitive side to you that if you can tap into, which I think Ben Simmons will be able to tap into, especially if he goes and plays in Philadelphia, and if they potentially match up with them in a playoff series or something like that in the playoffs, that would be, it's going to be a crazy series if that happens. And it's very possible to happen. I mean, Philly is very close to being the 1 seed right now. The way they're playing now, they've inserted James Harden into the lineup. They're 2-0. They're blowing teams out. And honestly, they're looking fantastic. I mean, you look at the win versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are on the second of a back-to-back, but they, James Harden put up 27 and 12 in his opening time from them. He shot 58% from the field, 71% from three. Tyrese Maxey was able to get everything he wanted to go. Joel Embiid said he felt like he was the most open in his career and didn't even feel like he had to try to get 34 points. Then in their next game, James Harden puts up a triple-double, 29, 10, and 16. You see Joel put up 37. Tyrese Maxey again is able to do a lot, and all of that, again, on very good efficiency. Now, Joel Embiid, maybe not the best efficiency that game, but James Harden on very good efficiency, Tyrese Maxey on very good efficiency, and so that team looks like a team, and that team, again, won by, 16 points that time, and it looks like a team that's going to be rising up the rankings here, fighting for that number 1 seed in the East, obviously only being 2.5 games back. It is very, very probable and plausible that they could get the number 1 seed, and if Brooklyn stays where they're at and isn't, because they're going to be integrating all these guys and still kind of is just figures it out maybe at the end of the season, which could be good or bad, right? Then they're probably still going to potentially stay in that play-in range like we were talking about, and that could potentially see a first round Philadelphia and Brooklyn Nets matchup, which would be absolutely insane. That'd be must-watch TV. You'd have to see every game. And if Kyrie Irving is playing, I have no clue who is going to win that series, because that'll be so much fun. There'll be so much anticipation. There'll be so much bad blood between Embiid and Simmons and the whole 76ers roster and Simmons and potentially even those guys and Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, because Andre Drummond and Seth Curry were like, look, I don't know what you're talking about, Danny Green, because he came out and made some comments, but we're cool with Simmons, like, it's business, right? Potentially they're going to have some beef there. That would be must-watch TV, and that would probably be the best series that we could see in the whole playoffs, because these are two contenders that we could potentially see in the first round. So the Nets pose a very, very big threat to teams that are high seeds right now. And it's, I don't know, it's very, very interesting. So I think, again, like I said, if Kyrie Irving is able to potentially, as it looks, here pretty soon, be able to become a full-time player for the Brooklyn Nets as, the last little bit of the season goes on. If he can get a month or half a month in, 2 weeks or so of full-time play before the playoffs, if this team can find themselves, find an identity, mesh, get everybody back, I would be scared if I'm a team in the Eastern Conference. And this team has to get on it, though. This team has to get on it, though. Currently, with them being 32 and 29, that's 52 plus 9, 61 games. So they've only got 21 games left in the season, and with only 21 games left, that's not a lot of time. I mean, at the recording of this video, they do play tomorrow night on Monday, but it is Sunday, February 27th. Right now, with the recording of this video, so they do play tomorrow night. They play the Raptors, and they play the Raptors again on March 1st, so a back-to-back there versus the same team tomorrow night at Barclays, which will already have gone through, and then I guess tonight of this video, they play the Raptors again at in Toronto. And so that, we'll have to see how that game goes. Obviously, those two teams are right next to each other in the playoff seeding right now, so it'd be a big game for the Nets to pull out. In their last game, Kyrie Irving was phenomenal against a fully healthy Milwaukee Bucks team. He was able to beat them as their lone star. He put up 38, a season career high so far for him, and honestly, he was matching, Bobby Portis, who was the star for that game from the Milwaukee Bucks, shot for shot. No, but I mean, Giannis had 29, Middleton had 25, and Bobby Portis had 30, and Kyrie Irving's 38 was enough to get it done for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, yes, he had some help from the role players and everything like that, and that kind of goes back to, potentially them having the best role players they've had this whole time that they've been in Brooklyn this season. And yeah, they're not going to get a ton of home playoff games. They're not going to get home court advantage, but if they sweep you in a playoff series, does it matter if they get home court advantage or not? Not exactly. So it could potentially make it tougher for them throughout the playoffs because of how the season's gone to this point and maybe not playing Kyrie earlier. But they've got 21 games to kind of get their stuff together. Right now, if you're looking at March 10th as the date that Ben Simmons should be back, that's in 6 games. So call it 7. Worst case scenario, he plays versus Brooklyn. You still got 14 games to kind of get that going. Kyrie Irving's probably going to play about half of these, but again, if that March 7th is true that Woj tweeted out that potentially he could be back full time, that would be 2 games before Philadelphia, and so you would get nearly 15, 16 games with Kyrie full time, and that'll be your stretch that you got to get everything locked in. It's got to be you're hitting every chemistry thing that you need to be hitting off the court. You are understanding and learning and filling out the new players on the roster and how you all fit together, and it's got to happen quick because it isn't the easiest stretch. Now, it's not the hardest schedule to end off the year. You do get to play Orlando. You do get to play Portland. You do get to play Charlotte. You get to play Detroit. So you've got some games in there to help you get this out. You finish off the season on a stretch of 4 teams that probably won't make the playoffs with Houston, New York, Cleveland, and Indy. So that should help you fly into the playoffs with a little bit of momentum, ready for a potential play-in game, and hopefully at that point your chemistry's locked in and you're ready to go. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Do you guys think Kyrie Irving beat the system and is going to be back playing full time and didn't have to get vaccinated like the NBA thought he was going to have to? Or do you think this is going to bite him in the butt and the chemistry isn't going to come together, it isn't going to work out the way they want to, and they aren't going to be able to win a championship? I don't know. You guys let me know down below in the comments. I'm super interested to see what you guys say. And yeah, that's going to be it. Like I said, it's been your boy Dom, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace out, guys.